Okay, go.
FaLaLa,
FaLaLa! FaLaLa! FaLaLa!
FaLaLa, I think I might have screwed that up.
You're welcome to fucking awesome lyrical analysis by Lit Anarchists with Kat.
And Ben.
Yes.
There once was a jolly swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree, and he sang as he watched and waited till his belly boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came a jumbuck to drink at the billabong. Up got the swaggy and grabbed him with glee, and he sang as he stowed that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he stowed that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came the squatter, mounted on his thoroughbred. Up came the troopers, 1, 2, 3. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. I've got the swaggy and jumped into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, said he, and his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his belly boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, and he sang as he watched and waited till his belly boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me.
Ben and Kat here with episode 3 of FaLaLa. We're going to do something a bit different. This is a special episode for Australia Day.
Woohoo!
So we're going to do a little bit of analysation of Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah, this time we picked a couple good old Australian oldies but goodies.
Yeah, and another song, True Blue. So we're going to analyse some of these lyrics and it may just be informative for some people, because who knows where Waltzing Matilda comes from.
You want people to raise their hands. Okay, everybody raise your hands if you've ever heard Waltzing Matilda and its history. Count them. Well, just give you a little bit of background on what I learned about the song. It was written in 1895 by Andrew Banjo Patterson, a famous Australian poet. And just the terminology. So waltzing.
Sorry, I have to interject.
Oh, please do.
It's A.B. Patterson.
Right. He has,
A.B. Banjo Patterson.
the B is for Barton. So it's Andrew Barton Banjo Patterson. Banjo's his nickname.
Okay.
But commonly known to most Australians as Banjo Patterson.
Yeah.
I would guess most Australians don't even know the Andrew or the Barton part and could
Yeah,
literally...
I didn't know, that's why I asked. I just know him as Banjo Patterson.
And in Australian, which is... Australian slang is going to be predominant in this episode. They couldn't be bothered with it. So, Banjo Patterson. But the song Waltzing Matilda, just the title, just give you a little bit of vocab again, but just quickly. Waltzing literally became known... It's a term for traveling on foot. The Matilda comes from an old Teutonic female name meaning mighty battle maid. Boom, boom, boom.
Sounds like you, baby.
Yeah, oh, sweet. That's my sweet baby. But then, of course, in Australia, it became the slang term for the de facto wife who accompanied a wanderer or a waltzer. And then...
Well, it sounds like you again, baby.
Oh, so much sweetness. In the Aussie bush, a man's swag was his sleeping partner. Because he traveled alone. He just went wandering. So the swag became known as his Matilda. And so he was waltzing his Matilda across the country. So that's pretty much the title. A little bit of history about the song was, which I wonder if, well, like I didn't know, but this was new to me. There was the Great Sheep Shearers' Strike of 1891, where the shearers basically rose up because England had granted Australia the right to govern itself. And for whatever reason, the shearers were not happy with what the wealthy landed class imposed upon them. They revolted. It was quickly put down when the military was called in. But in 1894, there was another shearers' strike at Dagworth Station. And the song kind of came about because Banjo Patterson visited that station just a few months later, after there was the little revolt there, and visited with a family who lived there, the McPhersons.
Yeah.
McPhersons.
But, I also have to add that Banjo Patterson was also a war correspondent. He corresponded, I think, during the Boer War.
That was in South Africa.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was also a war correspondent. But
Good on him. So that could be why.
Well, continue.
That could very well be why he visited the station, a few months later. But he visited with the family.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but
I wouldn't know.
Just because, mate, I love Banjo Patterson.
We're gonna go with the fact that you're right, because on this episode, it's our perspective. We're always right.
No, we're not.
On this, well, just in our little podcast, we're right.
Well, we hope to be.
Come on, go with me.
Well, come on.
Go with it. She'll be right.
Come on.
Come on. Anyway, so yeah, Banjo visited the station a few months later, and got the story about the revolt at Dagworth Station from the owner, Bob McPherson, and his family. And he was given a tour of the property, and on the property is the Combo Waterhole, which, when they went there, they found a sheepskin, and there was this whole story where Bob McPherson said, oh yeah, there was a swaggy who came here and shot that sheep and ate it and left the skin. And so there's the story of the jumbuck, which is a sheep. And then Banjo and Bob, they went back to the house, had a little bit of dinner, and were entertained by Bob McPherson's daughter, who played a ditty at the time that was the tune that got into Banjo's head, which he based his poem on. And what came about was the song Waltzing Matilda. But the biggest thing about Waltzing Matilda and what it did from there, would you like to interject?
Yeah, there's back in those days, it was almost customary for if there was a traveller coming through and they took a sheep to eat, they would skin it and leave the skin so that the farmer could sell the skin, because skins were big things back in those days. And the farmer didn't have to kill the sheep or anything, or do all that hard work, left with the skin, which he could then sell.
Right, and he wasn't out 100%.
Exactly.
The swaggy ate, and the station owner had the skin to sell.
Yeah.
Kind of a, took your meat, man, but here's your...
kind of an unwritten...
yeah, and it didn't dwindle the herd or anything, so it was kind of an understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about the song was, or the poem actually, that he put to a tune in his head, was that became influential in putting the public behind the common man in the going towards an Australian entity, Australian mindset that was strictly Australian. So pretty much took the wealthy out of power when it came to getting something in place to speak for the people. And you know us, we're anarchists, so I'm not going to say that the Constitution was like the be-all and end-all and wonderful result of this. But ultimately, the Constitution of 1901 came about, supposedly, from the fact that this song rallied the public and the common man behind the shearers and the workers and the regular Australians, as opposed to the wealthy ruling class. Well, in 1997, or 1897 and 98 was the Federal Convention that resulted in the Constitution of 1901. And there are people who say that Waltzing Matilda was the reason for that Constitution to take place, or that convention to take place, and the Constitution to be written, that kind of took into account the shearers, the regular dudes, the public, as opposed to just these tiny little population of wealthy landed class, the station owners. So that's why some people call Waltzing Matilda unofficially the national anthem of Australia.
Yeah.
So that's the history of it. But the cool part about the song, we just kind of want to go over the lyrics, and we're going to use John Williamson's version, just for lyrics, but we might bring up a couple of the Slim Dusty did a version, plus Banjo Patterson had his poem, so we're going to bring in that too. The song you heard at the beginning of the podcast was John Williamson's version of the 2000 Olympics.
But I also love Banjo Patterson and his poems. He captures Australia, and I also love John Williamson because he does capture the spirit of Australia in his music and songs.
The first stanza of the song, again, John Williamson's lyrics. There once was a jolly swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree, and he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing, Matilda, with me. So, seriously, Ben, as an Australian bushman, put yourself in the swagman's shoes. What's he thinking? What's he thinking sitting there?
Well, it was a nice shady tree to begin with.
The coolabah. What's that gum tree?
To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a coolabah tree. It may have been one of those, big bulbous trunk trees, which grow up in that area up in Queensland. I forget the name of them. Those, the same as what grows in Africa. Those big bulb trees.
Yeah.
Boab.
Oh, Boab. Yeah, Boabilis.
Yeah, but
I don't even want to say it because I want to say Boabilis. I don't think that's a word, but
but
all right.
but they're called something different here.
So the swaggy's
Same kind of tree.
sitting there in the shade of the tree. I mean, picture the hot sun. And he's in the shade, and he's by a billabong. Maybe you should explain what a billabong is a little bit.
It's just kind of a runoff from a river in flood, and water just lays there until it dries up.
So once the flood goes down, the water stays for a bit.
Yeah.
And he's camped there. What's a billy?
Well, that's like a tin can you put on a fire and boil water in.
So he's carrying around his swag and a tin can for
Yeah,
water.
yeah, because you got to boil water.
Why do you boil water? For tea.
Yeah, well, people drink tea.
I know you don't drink tea. But you might have. If you were a swag man, you might have. Way back in 1895.
Well, everyone still has. Well, you gotta boil water because you're getting it out of a billabong. Definitely boil that water because that water's going stagnant. Yeah, standing water goes stagnant.
Yeah.
And
Okay, but we have the picture. Our audience is picturing the swag man under the shade of the coolabah tree, boiling his billy, which is a little tin can he's boiling water for, whether it's for tea or just for drinking. The shade and the peace.
yeah,
This little river alcove.
out in the bush.
Yep.
Yeah, loving it.
Nice, right?
Loving
I mean,
it. Yeah.
How
No McDonald's.
any other term for peace? I don't know. I don't know
loving
how you could describe peace any better.
Anyway, so this sheep turns up.
The jumbuck. Jumbuck. Another word for sheep. Never heard of it before, but yeah.
And, well, it would be good to have a feed. So he jumps up and grabs a sheep and leaves the skin for the farmer. He stowed that sheep in his tucker bag.
And still singing to the sheep, the sheep meat. He's like,
Yeah.
you'll come waltzing Matilda with me. It's like diabolical.
You're not gonna actually sleep with the sheep,
No, but
but
he's got provisions.
yeah,
Now this dude has tea and dinner. And he's left the skin for the landowner, like we explained. All good. All is right with his world.
well, it was.
Until Here's the next verse. Down came the squatter, mounted on his thoroughbred. Up came the troopers, 1, 2, 3. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag? You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. What does that even mean? I think good for you to explain it, Bushman Ben.
I may look like a bushman, but those days have passed.
They don't have to be. That's the point of our podcast right now.
Yeah.
Those days don't have to be passed. What did he do that was so wrong? However, here comes the squatter. And I think that's a really interesting term in the poem. This is original language. This particular term has not changed from Banjo Patterson's poem to John Williamson's song. Up came the squatter.
So, the squatter. Now, the squatter owned the farmland.
Supposedly.
Well, yeah.
The wealthy guy, the guy with the sheep.
You know, they used to call them squatters. And I don't know, well, this may get a little bit weird. Because a squatter is someone who sits on land, and if no one claims ownership over it, they get to own it.
Yep. And if they sit there long enough, anyone who comes to kick them out can't, because they've been there too long.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if, based on the whole how you got land in Australia, was who you knew, influentially and otherwise, whether it was a government official, authoritarian, or whether it was a relative who said, yeah, go. My friend here, the one in this poker game, got me some acreage here, and you just got to go out and sit on it. You can put some sheep on it, and it's yours. You don't even have to pay for it. But I need someone to go be there, and be present in that place.
But back in those days, there were pompous people sitting in England.
Well,
and they were granting people plots of land in Australia.
sight unseen.
Yeah. But people sitting in England granting land to people in Australia.
Yeah. Or to the second.
That's pretty weird.
The second
right?
son or the third son. It was the perfect answer.
Yeah, but it's pretty weird because apparently they had ownership over it to grant these people ownership over it, over this section of it.
But had no idea who was there and how to even live there.
Yeah, that's kind of where it all gets twisted.
It does. It gets very gray and very unclear, and I think it's interesting, hence the term squatter. Mounted on his thoroughbred, of course, because he had money. They had money from whatever, whether it was an inheritance, whether it was a gift, whatever it was. They spend most of their time in the cities, would rarely come out to visit their stations where they had the sheep. Most of the time it was what do you call them, foremen or overseers or just certain people they had appointed. But unfortunately for this particular swaggy, it was the landowner who came out on his thoroughbred in the company of the troopers. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so 3 troopers. And back in those days, these troopers were made up of ex-convicts.
Yep. A lot of them granted their freedom just because they would agree to do this job.
Yeah. And, well, they were already trained by being in prison.
Oh, yeah, their experience was their own handlers.
Yeah. How to do
Their own
their
jailers.
job because, well, when you do this, yeah, you get whipped. Or you do this, you get shot. It's...
But I think most people can envision a low intellect individual who is lived a life of hardship and has a chip on his shoulder the size of the continent itself. Given a gun and a badge and authority, he becomes an authoritard immediately. This particular swagman is confronted not only with the landowner, supposedly, but also 3 of these authoritards who could very well probably lose in a spelling bee with the guy sitting there bullying his billy. But they have guns and badges and the queen at their back. So they confront him. Who's the jolly jumbuck you've got in your tucker bag?
Who's?
Yeah, who's it? You'll come a waltzing as Matilda with me.
Yeah, they're gonna take him away, lock him up.
He knows his fate.
Cage him.
He knows his fate.
Yeah, cage him. When he's just trying to be a free man.
And really doing no harm. It's an unspoken custom. It's like an unwritten law, what you spoke of before, where you kill the sheep, you eat the meat because you gotta eat, but you leave the skin so the landowner isn't lost. He hasn't lost everything.
Yeah.
It's an unspoken custom, but it is a custom.
Yeah.
So the next verse, up got the swaggy and jumped into the billabong. "You'll never catch me alive," said he. "And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing, Matilda, with me." Okay, the laugh I added, but what choice did this free man have? Did this free spirit go with and be imprisoned for living his life, for doing his thing? I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, well, I just read a few news articles this week, and in the last couple of months it's the same story. It's the same old story where it's it is death by cop. It's sad to say.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But some people think that's the only out.
And I should clarify, we're not violent people. Ben, you and Ben and I, we're not violent people.
No, we aren't. But
we're not advocating violence or advocating any kind of suicidal intention or any kind of violent means to an end. I think there are better ways, but I do understand this idea, and it does harken back to the whole initial. This song got the ear of the public, and booted the wealthy class out of their social standing at the point where they could pretty much, when the England said you can govern yourselves, they said it to the wealthy class, the landowners. And the majority of people in Australia at the time were not landowners. They were the workers for the landowners. These swagmen, these free people, there was a multitude of people doing different things. And they all got behind each other. And the wealthy got kind of booted out in their say. Which led to that
little-
constitution that was
for
ratified.
a little time.
Well, for a little time.
Yeah,
For a
well,
bit.
and that's why the Constitution, well, the Australian Constitution was written in.
Yeah. But it did take into consideration, social justice as opposed to social injustice, which was the, handful of wealthy landowners compared to the gutful of true Australians. The
Well,
real...
They still wrote it in as a slave document.
Yeah, we
And-
have to say that, but still.
Yeah, because only they can interpret it, and they can make any laws they want out of it.
But what I find interesting is that the version of the song that we use in this podcast is from the 2000 year 2000 Olympics when John Williamson sang it. And if you notice, the very end, the whole entire audience starts to sing along. Everyone knows it. It's like an inner anthem that Australians sing regardless of what's happening in government and in and about themselves. They still feel this.
Yeah.
When I say patriotic pull, I'm saying patriotic from a standpoint of what do we say? A patriotic standpoint of
not so much patriotic.
I'm
but
patriotic in that I love the land. I love my history. I love my heritage. I love what I come from, and I love who I am. Not I love my borders and I love my government and I love my flag. That's what I mean when I say a patriotic standpoint. And so they all sing along.
which is what all Earthlings should say, and that's why all Earthlings should unite.
Yeah, that's true.
But they try to segregate all us Earthlings. We are all born of this earth.
But that was what? That was 1895, right? So
Yeah.
So let's skip ahead in time to pretty much 100 years later when John Williamson writes True Blue in 1981. 1982, it was first released and bombed. Didn't make any charts. Re-released in 1986 as part of the Mally Boy album. And True Blue became the #1 single off that album. Again, it's pretty much an Aussie slang song. The song is full of Australian slang.
Yeah.
But-
Gotta love Australian slang.
It is a backbone. It is a really a foundation. Your slang, it's beautiful.
Without Australian slang, we'd be lying out there like a dead dingo's donger.
Don't explain that one. Even though this episode is not for kids.
But
But what is interesting is that 100 years later, it's almost like John Williamson is saying, what happened? Come on, where are you? Remember Waltzing Matilda and what Banjo Patterson wrote about the resilience and the strength of the swaggy soul. First verse.
Yeah, hey, True Blue, don't say you've gone. Say you've knocked off for a smoko and you'll be back later on. Hey, True Blue. Now, I know what it is to be true blue. I was born here. I've lived here. I've grown up here. I've matured here. And I didn't knock off for a smoko being Australian. I didn't knock off. I don't really believe in flags, but if there was ever a flag or a fly, it would be the Eureka flag. And most people don't know about this history of Australia. The Eureka flag, Eureka stockade, no one knows about this anymore. But if I ever flew a flag, that would be the one I'd fly. But I don't need a flag. I don't need a flag. Also, at the time, there was an altercation with the British, not far from where we live right now. Yeah, it's only an hour drive from here.
The rebellion on the Turon.
Yeah, the rebellion on the Turon. Over, well, you're gonna dig here, you're gonna have to pay us. You wanna dig here, you have to pay us.
Who is us?
Oh, the British Crown. You wanna dig here, you have to pay us.
And who had to pay?
You had to pay? The diggers.
Just the diggers? The wives of the diggers, not the children of the diggers, not the friends of the diggers, not the...
If they're on the site, yeah, well, you gotta have that license.
Where are you, True Blue? Where's that backbone? Where's that stamina? Where's that resilience? Where's that Eureka flag resilience that said, we will not stand for injustice? We won't stand for this bullshit that's going on.
Yeah, but are you really disappearing?
Well, he's asking. He's like, this is in 1981 when he wrote this. 100 years after Banjo Patterson wrote his poem, he's asking, where have you gone? True Australians, where have you gone? You strong, again, resilient people who face drought one year and flood the next and still manage to get by. Where have you gone? You people who take this climate and this continent and this livelihood and this way of life and face it head on and don't cower. Where are you? Hopefully, you've kind of just taken a break. You've knocked off for smoko. It goes on like, well, there's the chorus.
True Blue, is it me and you? Is it mum and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True Blue, I'm asking you. Yeah, well, to me, I was born here, grew up here. Mum and Dad are almost gone. I still see cockatoos here, out in the bush, and that's where it's at. But everyone's not understanding the bush.
Well, cockatoos aren't complying. They still do their thing.
No, they fly wherever they want. Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Yeah, that's True Blue. But we're all in a fight right now. And no one's even realising it.
I don't think people get that. It's not just standing by your mate when he's in a fisticuff at the pub.
No.
It's standing by your mate, your neighbor, your family.
Yeah.
When we struggle to be who we are, and we're told we can't be that person because it doesn't fit the veneer, the social norms, the construct that's being created.
Which is love thy neighbour.
Oh, but you can't do that because that doesn't benefit the predator class.
I was gonna say. I thought you were gonna say. No, I can't say that
Yeah.
because no, that's biblical.
That predates
But-
biblical.
Yeah,
It does.
but yeah, well before. But mate, love thy neighbour.
Yeah.
Stand by your mate when he's in a fight. And
Any fight. Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
it doesn't just mean a fist fight in the middle of the street or in an alley or anywhere. It's not just, don't take this literally. He's calling out Australians. Stand by your mate when he's in a fight for his very person.
we can also
Stand
get
by
into
your
it.
mate when he's just trying to boil his fucking billy by the billabong and grab a bite to eat. And the powers that be are making that impossible. Stand by your mate. If anything, stand with him and try to do that same very thing. Be Australian. Anyway, next verse.
Hey True Blue, can you bear the load? We tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road. Hey True Blue. I have a story about this verse. Yeah, we have very stringent rules and regulations
That's why I call it the daycare now.
in Australia. So yeah, well, I had a van. The radiator didn't work anymore. I can fit this radiator into my van out of my old car. It's the same make. So pull that out of my old car. Put it in the van, but the bolt holes don't line up. So, well, some wire will fix that. I tied that radiator in with wire, and I drove around.
How long did you drive
Yeah,
that
right.
van that way?
Till the engine blew up.
But how long was that? Days? Weeks? Months?
Oh, probably a year later. But,
Yeah.
the thing is, it passed a rego check too. I mean, we get rego checks every time we got a registered vehicle. And,
Make sure it's roadworthy.
and I'm over that.
But you know what I think that verse is about? It's about troubleshooting. And
Yeah.
it's like your heritage almost demands that you're born with this instinctual knowledge of troubleshooting. You gotta to survive.
Well, you're born out in the bush. You gotta know how to do stuff.
What about your dad? Your true blue dad.
Yeah.
Tell that story. That's a good one.
Okay. Well, my dad's driving along the road, and there's a car broken down on the side of the road. Well, not really broken down, just out of fuel. And there's a woman and a guy, and so Dad stops, and what's going on? You know, what's the problem? Why aren't you driving?
Because that's true blue as well. Stop and ask, do you need help?
Yeah. And we run out of fuel. Oh, okay. So you need some fuel? No, well, we have fuel. We just can't get it into the car because we have a jerry can of fuel, but we have no way of putting it into the vehicle.
No funnel.
Yeah, we don't have a funnel. So, there's a... okay. Yeah, I think I can fix this. He walks along the fence line, along the side of the road, finds a glass bottle being thrown there because,
Yeah.
people like to litter. So, he finds a glass bottle, breaks the bottom off it, shoves that in the pour hole, pours a jerry can into that.
There's your funnel.
Created a funnel out of some rubbish someone left beside the road. And there's that poor girl standing there, digging her husband in the ribs. Why didn't you think of that?
Tied up with wire. And he kept the show on the road. It's a troubleshooting. It's that mentality.
Yeah. Well, city slickers don't have it.
I think honestly the next verse is the meat of it though. It's really it's what sticks. It's the challenge. He's throwing down the gauntlet here.
Hey, Blue, now be fair dinkum. The fair dinkum is true. It's truth. It's being true to yourself, being true to your heart. Fair dinkum. It's like the truest you can get.
Yep. It's don't give me no shit. Tell it to me like it is.
Yeah, it's fair dinkum.
Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Come on, Australia, do you really care? They've been selling us out for the last 3 years, more so than ever before. Look at
selling Australia out for decades.
But look at the first song we did, Walter Matilda, and how the public rallied behind the Australian person, that strong soul, that troubleshooter, that thinker, that independent, I will make my way regardless kind of person. And now, 100 years later, he writes this song saying, do you really care? Are you even there? Where are you, Australia?
Well, I'm still here. And sponge cake?
I do like sponge cake.
Oh, sells out a lot. Lamingtons.
Yeah? But is it a big deal? You know what? There will always be more.
But most listeners, well, if they're overseas from Australia, they won't know what a lamington is.
Well, they wouldn't. But that's not even in the song.
Lemmings? Lemmings? No, lamingtons. That's sponge cake.
Interesting that you bring up lemmings.
yeah, but sponge cake. Chocolate covered cake with some
coconut flakes.
Desiccated coconut.
Desiccated. I don't like that word. I think you should call it coconut flakes because that's just more appetizing.
Well, it's been desiccated.
It has, and it's gross, but we just call it
It's
coconut
not
flakes.
gross. Coconut's beautiful.
But honestly, I mean, we've gone through these two songs and the roadmap from a song of strength and resilience to a song of pleading with the world or the country to say, where are you? why are you letting this happen? And here we are 40 years later. And I don't think I have to tell anyone or say anything about what's happened now and how strong the veneer has become. But we'd like to end this particular podcast with some Australia Day tributes to Australia. Some nostalgic things, some terms, some things like favorite things.
I love this land.
I think it is sad how the predator class has become so disconnected with the actual real people and the real spirit and the real heart of the land, of the people here. But that's what I mean. I think we should end on a higher note, and this is what we go off with. What do we love about Australia?
I still love the people here.
Yes.
I love how resilient most people can be, especially farmers.
I love how they face every problem. Like everyone's always looking for solutions now. But it's not even so much about finding they just find a solution because it's how they gotta go. They gotta find a solution or they die, and they do.
I love the bush. I mean, like the physical trees and stuff.
Yeah, I got that.
And
sausage rolls.
Sausage rolls are pretty good.
The slice. I pretty much like every variety of slice. Caramel.
Slice of heaven.
Little slice of heaven. Australia. I love the wattle.
Different songs.
The wattle in spring. The blackberries. Most people hate those, but I love eating them. That's how we end it. Because
I still love the green and gold.
even though we may leave you, we still love you. And this is what we love.
I love the green and gold of the bush because when you see that sunset through the gum trees, there's actually gold that glistens in those leaves. So I love those sunsets.
I love how there's either everything or nothing. It is a country of literal contrast all the time.
Yeah.
It's always way more than you could want or way less than you could need. And it's just...
It's either drought or flood.
You just don't know. I love pub meals.
Oh yeah.
I love
when we used to be able to afford them.
I love getting shouted at more so than I love shouting. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Cheers to Australia. Happy Australia Day.
And remember, a life lived in fear is no life at all.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Hey, true blue, don't say you've gone. Say you've knocked off for a smoker, and you'll be back later on. Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue, give it to me straight. face to face. Are you really disappearing? Just another dying race. Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True blue, I'm asking you. Hey, true blue, can you bear the load? Will you tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road? Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. Now be fair dinkum. Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when she's in a fight? Or just Vegemite? True blue, I'm asking you. True blue, is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo?